Hello, everyone. Module 6 assignment is a little bit different than what we've been doing in the past. We're not filling out anything that has to do with the final project, but we are doing things that are adding examples, ideas to a couple of those areas in that final project. So especially for those who've gotten feedback from me that say you're going to need to add examples for the final project, that sort of thing, you're going to find that this is going to be incredibly helpful. Now, a couple of workplace skills that we're doing in this particular assignment. Oftentimes, you're going to be asked to analyze ideas, documents in the workplace that are going to ask you to really dig deep and dig below the surface of what it looks like it is. So this is a deeper analytical assignment. You are asking deeper questions to get down into the roots of what a creative work is doing. The second thing that you're doing in this, and this is going to sound a little bit odd, but it is a soft skill. Soft skills are really important in the workplace because it gives you a way of approaching work in a really unique fashion. This assignment is about curiosity. I wonder about things and building that skill by asking you questions that are designed to send you on a bit of a scavenger hunt. Okay. Now, you are using a new creative work in the Module 6 discussion board this week. Be really sure that you read the responses this week. I know it's difficult to read all the responses and it's not a requirement, so oftentimes you guys do your replies and you're done. I get it. But this week I want you to read them because one of the things about appropriation versus appreciation is that sometimes we get it wrong. So I really wanted you to make sure that if you haven't picked a really great creative work or you don't feel like it's really good for this assignment, that you have heard from your classmates and me about whether that's true. So be really careful. That's one big stumbling block that I've seen in students. Okay, so we're selecting a creative work, and now we're going to start into the questions. Okay, so I'm going to use a creative work in this particular case, a television show that some of you may know, some of you may not, called Will Trent. And I'm going to just go through these particular conversations and we're going to see how that works. Okay, so describe the diverse perspectives that are represented in the work. So for those of you who don't know, Will Trent is a police procedural and it follows Will, who is a former foster child in the system in Georgia, and he is now in the Georgia Bureau of Investigation and they investigate crimes. Okay, so I know some things on the surface of this, right? Will is actually it comes from a family from Puerto Rico. So there is and he is learning about his culture as he learns about his biological family, which is something that unfolds in the show. That's a diverse perspective right there. Will is an Hispanic character in the show. Great. Now that's surface level. I want you to go and think about it a little deeper. So I'm going to go to a trusty source, IMDb. If you don't know this, this is the place to get all the information about shows and movies. And we're going to look up Will Trent. Okay, so a few other things that I want to point out, and I'm just going to follow my curiosity as I do this. So one of the things that we've talked about this week is this appropriation or appreciation? Is a Puerto Rican character something that we're appreciating or not appreciating? So let's take a look at these creators first. So we have Liz Heldens. Let's take a look at Liz. Liz does not appear to be a diverse perspective, does she? She appears to be a white woman. Now let's look at Daniel T. Thompson. Don't have any sort of thing about him. Okay, this isn't looking great, right? The diverse perspective is sort of rolling off the map a little bit. Now, I'm going to start looking a little deeper. Here is one of our writers. Look at this. Her stories explore the breadth and multiplicity of interracial conflicts within the African American community. Okay, not Hispanic, but interesting because Will Trent, if you know the show, has lots of African American characters. Okay, we're starting to get to something here. Notice how I'm just going to continue following this. Okay, so we've got Rebecca Murga. She has Puerto Rican roots. Look at that. So what I can talk about in this response and the diverse perspectives are, not only are the characters in the show diverse, we have Black women, Black men in jobs that are of societal importance. We have Puerto Rican characters, but we also have behind the scenes writers who understand those viewpoints and who are representing them in the work. That's really important. I might even talk about a few of those and what that means to have those people behind the scenes doing that sort of work. Okay. Describe how your self-concept influences your perspective of the work. Okay. So I'm going to use this again as an example with Will Trent. I went to school at the University of Georgia. So any show that is based in Georgia for me that is based in Atlanta, which is very close to UGA, I recognize places. This feels like home. And if you've never been to the South, it's going to be very different. It is a very Southern show, and it's a very Atlanta show. So my self-concept influences that because I see it and go, ooh, that's Georgia. I'll tell you what, when they go to breakfast at one of these little mom and pop places, I'll tell you what, you get biscuits and gravy on that table. That's what you get. Now, my self-concept is a part of my perception of that work. Now, what are some of the factors that I have that influence the way I perceive that? Obviously, I'm from the South, but I'm also white. So when I look at this diversity, I'm looking at it from a different cultural lens than people who are Puerto Rican or who are African American. These are important things to realize. So remember, in the last assignment, we were talking about putting on different lenses. So this is one of those things. What are your lenses that you're looking through to perceive the work? You're going to talk about that, but then analyze what it does to change how you view the work. Okay, then finally, we're going to do that same thing that we did in the last assignment, put on somebody else's lenses to think about how they might perceive it. I'm not Puerto Rican. But to me, when I think about Will Trent and seeing a main character, who, by the way, is charming and interesting, incredibly smart, that to me is really important. And I think that representation is also important. Something else about Will Trent that I think is really important that we don't talk about in this class, but I think is a really interesting lens, is from an accessibility standpoint. Will Trent has dyslexia, and he has really a lot of trouble reading. I do not. I have never had trouble reading. That has been an easy skill for me. So when I look at that, it helps me to understand how someone who does look at the world that way goes about life and has to find their way around obstacles. This is a lot about, remember last module I talked about those dichotomies, old, young, rich, poor. This is a way that you can use those to interpret the work. So that's one thing you want to do. All right, great. If you have any questions, as usual, let me know.